it's Nina. Thanks so much for joining me today. Today I have a fun interactive card to share with you featuring scratch-off stickers. These are really popular right now, and I have a fun way to use die cuts with your scratch-off stickers to create some really fun and unique scratch-off sticker shapes. First, I want to show you the stamp set that we're going to be using in our card today. This is the Hedgehog Hollow stamp set from Newton's Nook. This is a brand new stamp for their August release, and I absolutely love how adorable these hedgehogs are. Hedgehogs are one of my favorite animals, so this is definitely totally up my alley, and I couldn't wait to use it. I'm going to stamp this with my Misty stamping tool in some Simon Says Stampin' 10's black dye ink. That's because I want to do some Copic coloring. So here you can see I've got my Copic markers, and I'm going to go ahead and start coloring in the images. Now I'm going to go ahead and speed through the coloring and play some music to let you watch it. I'm doing some pretty simple shading and just using anywhere between 2 to 3 colors per image. On the hedgehog's little furry spikes, I did use a couple extra colors, but for the most part everything is pretty simple, and I'll have all the colors listed on the side of the screen and also at the Simon Says Stamp blog. So that way you can go ahead and replicate the color combinations if you like them. And if you're not interested in the coloring, I'll have an annotation listed down below, so that way you can go ahead and fast forward to the next portion of the video where we go ahead and start creating our card. Okay, so now that we've just about finished up our coloring, it's time to go ahead and start working on the scene for our card. Here I've got a piece of Strathmore Bristol smooth paper, and I'm inking it with some Wild Honey Distress ink. And I'm going to be creating this for my background sky. I want this to be kind of like an autumn scene. And I thought the Wild Honey would make a really great sunset looking sky for this little scene card that I'm creating. So I'm going to blend that Wild Honey ink all over the background portion of the panel. I'm focusing the darkest coloring along the bottom portion, and I'm letting it fade out towards the top. Next, I'm going to bring in my distress sprayer, and I'm going to spritz this with a bunch of water, and I'm going to let that sit there for about 30 seconds to a minute. I don't let it sit too much longer than that. And then I go ahead and dab it up with my rag, and that reveals these really great water splatters because the distress ink ends up reacting with the water and lifting off when you dab it up with a rag or a paper towel. Next, I'm bringing in my Big Shot machine, and I've got a die here from Pretty Pink Posh. This is the Picket Fence die. I really love this die, and I'm going to go ahead and pop out all those little negative pieces. But you'll see here that the die does not cut the bottom portion of the picket fence. And to go ahead and get those little negative pieces out, all you do is go ahead and cut the bottom portion of the little picket fence there, and you'll go ahead and be able to pop all those pieces out if they don't fall out as you're cutting. Next, I'm bringing in some Strathmore Bristol smooth paper and these tree dies from My Favorite Things. I really love these trees because they're perfect for creating all sorts of different scenes. For this particular die set, I don't actually cut the dies apart because I just end up using all the pieces anyway, and anything left over I can go ahead and tuck aside. But you can see here you get a bunch of different tree shapes and also tree trunks. Now here I've got some more Bristol smooth paper, and I'm die cutting a grassy hill from the My Favorite Things Grassy Hills dies. And I'm going to start inking that grassy hill die with some crushed olive distress ink. I'm focusing again the bottom portion of the grass to be having the darkest colors, and then the top portion is going to have the lightest. And on the bottom portion, I'm also bringing in a little bit of peeled paint because I wanted to darken up that green quite a bit. I loved the yellow tone of the crushed olive, but I wanted it to have a slight green tint to it as well because the grass isn't totally dead yet. So I'll go ahead and lift off that water that I've added on top with my rag, and I'm going to actually go ahead and let that dry, but we're going to come back and work on that later on and adding a little bit more depth. Now here I've got that picket fence, and I still haven't taken out all the negative pieces on that die yet, but that's quite alright. I'm just going to go ahead and ink onto this picket fence, and I'm focusing the darkest coloring along the bottom portion. This is some antique linen, and I just wanted to add a little bit of shading to the picket fence. Now here I've also got the little tree trunks for the trees from that My Favorite Things die set. I'm inking those up with some ground espresso, spritzing that with a bunch of water, and then I'll go ahead and dab that up with a rag. Okay, so now it's time to go ahead and start working on the trees. Here I'm taking some of my green ink. I think this one was a mixture of peeled paint and cracked pistachio. I'm bringing in a little bit of spiced marmalade, and I'm also going to bring in a little bit of fried persimmon as well. And I just really like the colors of these trees. It really adds that nice fall feel to it. And now I'm bringing in that grass again. You can see here my fingers are all inky from all that ink. But I'm going ahead and flicking on grass blades. And this is going to give my grass a lot more depth and dimension. And I'm mixing my distress inks with the Copics. And I never have a problem with any of the distress inks, or actually even watercolor. I've done this with watercolor as well. I never have a problem with either of those two mediums when I use it with my Copics. I just make sure it's completely dry before I bring my Copics in, and I go ahead and add the grass blades for this particular piece. Now for adding the grass blades, I'm just doing a flicking motion. I'm working from the bottom portion of the grass blade up to the top, and I'm just doing a light flicking motion and allowing the bottom portion of that grass blade to be a little thicker than the top. Okay, so now we need to start working on our interactive elements. This is some Silhouette scratch-off sticker sheets. These are 8.5 by 11 sheets, and I absolutely love these. These are pretty new to the market, and you actually get 5 sheets in the package. These are very similar to the scratch-off stickers that you get from Inky Antics. They're in round shapes though, and they come in different sizes, but they're also very limiting because you can only use those particular sizes. However, with these scratch-off stickers from Silhouette, these allow you to be able to die cut any shape you want using these scratch-off sticker sheets. I absolutely love this, and I'm going to show you here. I'm going to take this die from Newton's Nook. This is from their Darling Duos set that came out back in the beginning of the year. It was actually a Valentine set, but I love the little heart that's included in that die set. The die set just includes a bunch of different little hearts, and one of them has these really cute stitching lines, and then there's also a love die included in the set as well. And I'm just going to die cut this larger heart with the stitching lines in my Big Shot machine using the sticker sheets. And you can see it creates this perfect heart die shape that I can use as a custom scratch-off sticker to be able to hide the sentiment on my card. This is totally so cool, and I am so excited about how fun and customizable that you can get with these scratch-off stickers. So now it's time for me to start building my scene. I'm going to be playing around here with the placement on how I want to do things. I decided I want to go ahead and tuck that picket fence behind the grass. I'm going to have the heart on the right-hand side, and I'm going to stick my little hedgehog on the left. I'm going to add some trees then around it, and also a couple leaves. Okay, so now for placing my sentiment, I want to make sure that I keep the heart and sentiment in this particular area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the negative portion of that die cut, and I'm going to fit that in where the heart is. I'm going to remove the heart itself. I'm going to tape that negative there, and that's going to give me a guide for where I need to place my stamping. So that way it's perfectly in the center when I go ahead and put that heart right back on top. So I'm stamping my sentiment, which is from that same hedgehog stamp set from Newton's Nook. I stamped it in dark chocolate Simon ink, and I'm going to go ahead and remove the backer sheet of my little scratch-off sticker, place it right down inside that negative, and that negative allows me to get that heart right in the perfect place. It's a really great trick on making sure that you get that scratch-off sticker in the exact spot every time. Next, I'm going to go ahead and start building the rest of the pieces. Here I've got the grass. I'm going to pop that up with some foam tape along the bottom portion of my card. Next, I'm going to take the fence, and I use just some regular liquid adhesive on the back side of this particular fence, and I'll go ahead and cut off the excess portion with my scissors. For the trees, I'm going to go ahead and tuck those in or underneath the picket fence using some liquid adhesive. And if I was thinking, I probably should have done the trees first before I did the actual fence, but I luckily only stuck the glue along the bottom portion of the fence and not everywhere else. So thankfully I was able to go ahead and tuck those little trees underneath that picket fence. Otherwise I would have had to put them on top or redo it. So here I'm just going to go ahead and finish laying those out, and if you go ahead and repeat this exact card, just go ahead and think about maybe putting those trees in first, then put that picket fence down. For the liquid adhesive that I'm using here, this is some PPA matte adhesive. This is by ArtQuest. And I get a lot of questions about what kind of bottle I use for the liquid glue. This is actually a quilling bottle that you can use for like paper quilling. This is an art hobby that is also really fun. I actually did that for quite a while. But what I use is that quill bottle has that really nice fine tip to it. So I just refill from the large PPA matte adhesive bottle into the small quill bottle, and that allows me to get that nice fine tip on my nozzles. I'm going to go ahead and link to something similar that I use down in the video description and also on the Simon Says Stamp blog, so go ahead and check that out. Now moving on back to the card, I popped up the little hedgehog with some foam tape, and now I'm adding the little acorn and some mushrooms. I ended up coloring a few extra mushrooms, but I'm just adding those with some liquid adhesive onto the card as well. So after I've gotten that far, I decided, oh, you know what? I needed to add some leaves. So here I'm taking this really fun stamp set from Lawn Fawn. This is actually one of their newest stamp sets, Jump for Joy, and I'm going to go ahead and color in some of the leaves from that stamp set using my Copic markers. I use the same colors that I used in the rest of the scene, and I'm just going to quickly color those in with 2 shades each, and that'll allow me to add some leaves onto my scene to kind of fill it in and give it that more fallish feel. I also did die cut these leaves with the coordinating dies, which you can get for the Jump for Joy stamp set, which I always love about Lawn Fawn stamps, that they make dies for everything. Okay, so now that I've gotten all those colored in, I'm popping them up off of my card using some foam tape. I also attached the card down to a Kona Coffee cardstock base that I made from Simon Says Stamp cardstock. I really love that dark, rich chocolate color of this Kona Coffee cardstock. Thought it matched well with the coloring that I used in the hedgehogs. So my card is almost finished at this point, but now I need to add the sentiment to let you know that you need to scratch off this little heart to be able to find out what the really cute sentiment is underneath the heart. So I'm taking the new Simon Says Stamp It's No Secret stamp set. I'm taking a piece of scrap vellum here that I actually had done on a previous project and never ended up using, but it was perfect size for the sentiment, and I'll go ahead and stamp that with some Simon Says Stamp clear ink, heat emboss it with some white embossing powder, and then I'll go ahead and fussy cut that sentiment out so that way I can go ahead and use some temporary adhesive to attach it onto our little heart. And this just allows the recipient to have a little note that kind of tells you, hey, scratch here, you're going to find something cute. So I think that this turned out really, really fun, and I love these scratch-off stickers. I think you'll really enjoy getting to use those as well on your next upcoming projects. Also check out the stamp set from Newton's Nook Designs. It is adorable, and they also came out with a bunch of other new stamp sets that I'll also have linked in the video description and also on the Simon Says Stamp blog. You can check those out as well. So Newton's Nook always comes out with something fun. I just love seeing their new stamps each month. So I hope you've enjoyed and got some fun inspiration on creating some cute scratch-off stickers and also a fall-themed scene card. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can get weekly inspiration right here. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, and I will see you again soon.